Hello and welcome to today's video. My name's Haley, and today we're going over part 2 of 2 discussing the shadow frequency of opinion. So if you haven't seen part 1, I recommend backtracking in the illusion of time and watching that so that this can be a continuation of what I covered in the last video. Hopping right back into where we left off. He says that opinions are not inherently unhealthy, which is true, right? Actually, an example I used in the last video was you can use the power of your ability to formulate an opinion to choose a different ice cream flavor that you like, which obviously is not unhealthy. Well, okay, ice cream is unhealthy, but the ability to have an opinion is not inherently unhealthy. You choosing which flavor you like can only benefit you and bring you joy. It can't harm you or harm another. So some opinions and some choices and preference of choice is not necessarily harmful or unhealthy. And this is true for everything, right? Nothing inherently of it in and of itself is unhealthy, is healthy, is good, is bad. That's a whole Tibetan Buddhist rabbit hole to go down for another time. But he just reminds us of this truth. The logical left brain thinks through taking sides and comparing, right? Analyzing. He says problems occur with forming an opinion when your dissatisfaction begins to identify with an opinion and turn that into a dogma. Okay, so I read that and I could tell it was a very powerful statement, but I had to read it a few times over to really let what he's saying seep in. So I'm going to read that one more time for you guys. Problems occur when your dissatisfaction begins to identify with an opinion and turn it into a dogma. So I'll give you guys an example. For example, let's say you have a problem at work and you are dissatisfied with your income. And your boss has told you various things you can do to generate a raise and more abundance coming your way in the form of money. So the problem currently is I don't have the salary that I want. I'm dissatisfied, and my boss just told me a few items of which would help me get a raise. One, I can work harder and send these extra papers out by the end of Friday versus waiting the weekend. And the other one is let's say something shady. The other one is I can start to lie to the clients that we're working with, just white lies, so that our product sells more. Because if I sell more product, even if it's done not from a place of morale, I get more money for the company, therefore he's going to give me a raise. So 2 options here. And let's just say that of those 2 options, this individual decides that the mini white lies to the client is way easier than actually working harder and working overtime before the weekend. And so he has an opinion that this is the easier way to get what he wants. And this is being driven, again, by his dissatisfaction of his income. I'm so dissatisfied that I can't sit with this uncomfortability. No, I have to do something about it, even if it means telling a little white lie or 2. So obviously, as I'm saying all of this, it doesn't take a genius to figure out this is not heart from the heart, right? This guy does not care about others in this specific moment. He is more concerned with his or her, the example, I'm just in my head envisioning a dude, it could be a chick. This person is concerned with their own income, their own self. So problems occur when your dissatisfaction begins to identify with an opinion and turn that into a dogma. What's a dogma? A dogma is a rule. Oh, so I can't get an income unless I lie. That's why I lie. And actually, that's not true, right? Because just told you, in the broader spectrum, there is another option that's more holistic and heart-based consciousness. It just takes longer and takes more effort on his part or her part. But it's in this dissatisfaction and identifying with a specific opinion and making that the rule, making that the only way, right? Again, you have this narrow vision. No, it's this way or nothing at all. And that close identification with it, that starts to create an issue, right? And in reality, there's actually another alternative, and there's actually probably more alternatives if he were to really sit down with his boss and get curious as to how this can work out for everyone. But problems occur when your dissatisfaction begins to identify with an opinion and turn it into a rule. No, it has to be this way. And all of a sudden, the person who says, no, it has to be this way, I have to lie to my clients. It's just, something I have to do to sell more of this, whatever, microwaves that I sell. I have to tell them there's heating functions like no other microwave, even though that's not really true. I have to because I need this raise. And so obviously you can see how he's operating from a very low point of consciousness at this time. And this is he says, Richard Rudd says this creates disease in the body and in the mind. And it's the disease of seriousness. And drawing back to our example, the person really thinks they need this raise. No, I need this raise. I need this money for XYZ. It's very serious that I get this money. That I know. So because I need this, I have to do this thing that's toxic and ill and maybe not for my heart. And I'll just point out here that the person who is working through distortion of sorts may not consciously realize that the opinion that they're choosing, that the way they're choosing to solve the money issue at work, is the lower consciousness frequency, not from the heart. They may not realize they're operating from a place of egocentrism and service to self. So that's just something I'll point out, because I know definitely when I was heavily struggling with the shadow of opinion, which of course sometimes I still dip into that, right, because I'm a human, but for a chunk of my life, there was a few years where I was really, really, really like deep in that murky water, shadow of opinion. And I know, looking back now, obviously I was prescribing myself a dogma and then following that and then saying, no, it's literally my way or the highway. Like there's just no other options. I have to do this thing. It was very serious at the time. But I actually didn't realize how negative my selection was, and then also how there was also so many other options. So keep in mind that the person operating from opinion might not actually realize that there's more options. Once again, it's because their consciousness is like this. It's narrowed in, it's focused on a goal that's so serious for whatever reason, and they don't have the relaxation that they need to broaden their peripherals and see various people, places, things, opportunities that could actually help them get to where they want to go in a more heart-centered way. So I'll just say that. This person's not evil. This person's just unconscious. Okay, so then Richard Rudd starts to describe what healthy opinion is. Healthy opinion is rooted in playfulness, which is the opposite of this seriousness, I have to get what I want, that I just talked about. Healthy opinion is playfulness. Oh, I want chocolate ice cream instead of vanilla. Oh, I want unicorn bliss with this extra sprinkles. I want that instead of cotton candy, right? It's fun. It's not so serious. And he says that the person who operates from a sense of playfulness is able to utilize opinions in a way that are light, happy, and chill, is a person that has a developed right hemisphere. And by that he means they're not only operating from their left brain logical mind, analyzing how do I get what I want, so serious, doing mind. They're also operating from an equally balanced, which counterbalances the left brain, feminine right brain, which is like creative, flowy, in the moment, present. And so they have struck a balance between their brain, between their feminine and masculine energies, you could say, and this allows that person to indulge in the playfulness of choosing in a lighthearted way because of the present state of being that they're embodying. Oh, ladies, you're gonna like this part. If the inner structure of the brain is balanced, okay, let's just say these are the two hemispheres. So if it's balanced, the male aspect, which is the left, is always serving the female. So, okay, actually, I said ladies, you're gonna like this. This applies to everyone. This is not as cut and dry as like women and men. He's describing masculine energy and feminine energy, which whether you're a woman or a man, you have both of these energies. And so the male aspect always serves the feminine. The masculine energy of logic, of doing, of problem solving, of action, of power is always serving the feminine flow, surrender, trust, love, peace, oneness. And this means the person who has a balanced brain sees an issue, for instance, I need this raise at work, from a more holistic standpoint. Because their nervous system is relaxed, they're able to not just jump on the first opinion they think is going to get them what they want. They're relaxed enough to consider the outcomes of that opinion for themselves and also for others. Oh, what will that do to my name if I start to lie about how my microwaves work and then sell them to clients? What will that do in the future to my name? How will that affect the client buying the microwave in the future? They have more ability from this place of relaxation and balance to contemplate the potential negative and positive consequences that can come from selecting any choice. He carries on, he says, whenever you become over serious about your opinions, you immediately find yourself having to defend them. Over seriousness is born out of over-identification. Once again, the only reason you over-identify is if you think that is your only option, because you have this narrow bandwidth mindset. And so, of course, you're over-attached to the one option you think you have. And actually, I'll just add here, and I forgot which, where I learned this along the way. Somewhere along the way in reading and experiencing and living, I have realized that anytime this energy of defense comes up, of like, well, no, I'm right, or even if it's argumentative and not physical, you can think of defense in both ways. You know, even that person that's so quick to defend their word or argue or debate. Anytime defense arises within another person or even yourself, it is the ego coming online because it feels threatened, right? And one of my favorite quotes, which again, I don't know where this is from, I believe it's David R. Hawkins, but I could be wrong. But the quote is, "The truth needs no defense." And I love that quote because it is true. It is true that the truth needs no defense, which means if defense is arising, then it must not be truth. It must not be coming or emanating from a place of truth. It must not be coming from your higher self, divine, whatever you want to call that thing inside of you and all around you. It must be coming from that which is separate from truth, your ego, right? And actually, so the first meditation I'll offer you guys, since we've just gone over this, is meditating on that phrase, the truth needs no defense. Because, you know, I could sit here and explain that to you. But not only does the truth need no defense, it also needs no explanation. So I think it's better for everyone to just offer it as a meditation. The truth needs no defense. Just sit with that, I don't know, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 3 hours, a lifetime, however much you feel resonant with needing to sit with that term. But I have sat with that one for a while, and I continue to. And I have found it's brought me lots of good stuff, lots of wisdom and understanding and peace and joy and, you know, unicorn bliss ice cream flavors. So, yes. Back to the Gene Keys, though. He gives us a little taste of what's to come in the gift frequency, which is far-sightedness. And he says that far-sightedness is based upon seeing both sides of the situation at the same time. So the person that is embodied within the gift frequency of far-sightedness is not so concerned with, I have to sell these extra microwaves and lie to clients. They are able to see more sides at the same time. So even in their state of discomfort of, oh, I'm not making enough money this term, quarter, whatever, they're able to sit with that and simultaneously see other options before reacting to this low frequency option that has presented itself. Whereas the shadow frequency person of opinion sees the first option and runs for it and makes it very serious. I have to make this work, and if I don't, I'm not going to get income. If I don't have income, well, then I can't pay the bills. If I can't pay the bills, I'm going to get kicked out of my apartment. If I get kicked out of my apartment, I'm going to die on the street. So ultimately, this roots back down to being identified with fear-based consciousness and our survival needs not being met. So then you could also say that the person embodied in far-sightedness, or really any gift frequency for that matter, is starting to elevate out of this primal fear of death and trust and surrender into the universe. So cheesy, but so true. Oh, I like this part. He kind of brings us back to child development, which I mentioned in the last video, if you haven't seen that. And he says that it's interesting to note that in early childhood, there's little to do with intellect, and it's more to do with non-interference, specifically for those first 7 years, right? Basically, all children actually need, Richard Rudd says, is to have a safe environment to play, explore, and test boundaries. So you who's watching, again, take it or leave it. That is most definitely just his opinion. When I read that, I liked it, but I know it's not for everyone. Some people are like, no, it's very necessary that a child has a more structured environment than just playing from years 1 to 7, and that's totally fine. That's your opinion. So yeah, giving others the freedom to choose their opinion is also important. So the 17th gene key is about inner timing. This timing is anchored deep within the body and is connected to the frequency of Earth itself, which is the Schumann resonance. We went over that, I want to say, in the 12th gene key. So again, you need to be relaxed to be patient enough to trust in the inner timing of it all unfolding. The person who is in a shadow frequency of opinion has no form of patience, right? They need what they need right now. The guy that needs his raise needs it right now, which means he has to do this low vibrational thing of lying to clients to sell microwaves. Whereas the person who's starting to elevate their frequency realizes that things come when they come. I've put out the intention that I'd like a raise. I don't see a high frequency option that resonates with me currently, so I'm going to just patiently wait and keep coasting. And I like how Richard does this. He sprinkles little bits and pieces of the gift in the shadow chapter, and then bits and pieces of the shadow chapter and the gift chapter, and kind of weaves them into one. So by the time we do enter into talking about that gift frequency chapter, we already know a little bit about what we're about to get into. We've categorized humanity into boxes, countries, religions, hierarchies, all of which is mostly based upon masculine energy, the left brain, dogma. And this division, this comparison is all, once again, byproduct of our ill relationship with opinion, our hurriedness, our restlessness, stress, needing to get what I want now. And ultimately, he says, it's without regard for the long-term effects on the greater environment. What I just said back there. The person that's operating from this frequency is not considering the consequences of what it will do to their name as far as defamation goes. It'll make them seem completely unreliable. Oh, don't buy a microwave from that guy. He always lies. It will also hurt the people he's selling these microwaves to. They're not getting the product they think that they're paying for. So ultimately, it's operating out of fear, survival, and ignoring the long-term effects on the greater environment. And that includes people. And again, this person is not evil. This person just only sees what they want to see because they think they need what they need right now. They're impatient. They're restless. They're stressed. They're anxious. They're tweaking. I know this also because I used to be one of these people, like always tweaking out. Okay. And then moving on. And there's a whole paragraph or so here that I'm kind of breezing through because I forgot how long this chapter is, and we still have to go over the reactive and repressive nature. So this is a really good chapter. It's very long. I highly recommend reading the Gene Keys yourself or listening to the podcast on Spotify if you want the full, every single word version. I do my best to cover the points that I think are most prominent. The moment you open up the structure of your inner language to the third level that lies beyond the two contrary opinions, Democratic or Republican, conservative or labor, male or female, chocolate or vanilla ice cream, you ignite the power within your DNA to exit the shadow frequency altogether. So that first part of the sentence is a bit fluffy. The moment you open up the structure of your inner language to the third level. I read that and I was like, but then it actually ends up explaining itself. He's saying the moment you see more options than just A, B, Democrat, Republican, chocolate ice cream, vanilla ice cream, male, female, conservative, labor. The more you stop seeing it so black and white and start to realize there's a gray zone with infinite mixtures of these two shades, there's infinite options. That is how you exit the shadow frequency, by not being so aligned with one end of the spectrum, one polarity. And the only way to do this is via patience, which he doesn't say here, but this is my own little sprinkle on top of his ice cream. Patience, right? Because going back to our analogy, the guy selling the microwaves, he thinks he only has two options. I literally have to lie to the clients to sell more microwaves to get my raise, which I need right now. Or I can work overtime before Friday so my boss is happy and get my raise that way, because I need my raise right now. So the only way out of this pickle of like, well, no, I literally only have two options. It's like, no, you don't. It's not so black and white. The way you unlock more options is by being patient and trusting in divine timing. Allowing that gray zone to open up to you, which only opens up to you, by the way, in a state of relaxation. You can't expand your narrow bandwidth that only sees these two options. You can't expand it to see the rest of the options if you're in a state of stress. In a state of stress, you naturally zone in on the issue. It's only in a state of relaxation that your opportunities that were always there are able to be seen and chosen. So this is what it means to exit the shadow frequency, get out of this shadow of opinion. It's to relax, be patient, and wait for the gray zone to present itself. And this also takes the trust that there is more options. Once again, if you're overly identified with your need, I need this raise right now, you won't be able to be relaxed enough to wait for that. If you can't let go of the fact that for whatever reason, in divine will, clearly you don't need it right now or you have it right now. There's some time that needs to elapse, and maybe lessons that need to be learned before that can come down and manifest. So it's trusting that God's timeline is your timeline, for lack of better words. God loves source energy, the field, Mana Prana Shakti, Allah, whatever you want to call that thing inside of you and all around you. I don't mean that term to be polarizing. It's just a term I find myself often using in order to refer to that omnipresent energy field. So then going over the repressive and reactive natures of the shadow frequency of opinion. When the shadow turns inward, right? This is repressive. Repressive rhymes with depressive. You can think of this as a drain of energy, all of repressive natures. It is when the mind consistently compares oneself to others. Yes, this is definitely, I personally have dealt with this repressive nature of self-critique. I don't know if I said the title, self-critique. A lot. Gosh, talk about being a full-time model. Consistently comparing oneself to others. And obviously this perpetuates the individual to continually undermine themselves, right? Always through self-criticism, he says here. And this is just an unconscious pattern. So he reminds us that this person is not aware of what they're doing. They're not aware that they are addicted to comparing themselves to others or critiquing themselves. He says these people that are self-critical do not value themselves enough to hold an opinion or express it. And that's why this comparison starts to come online. This person, depressive energy, drain of energy, seeking outside. Oh, well, someone must know. I clearly don't know. It's kind of like it's an insecurity, right? An unconscious insecurity. And naturally, this person starts to look outward and compare themselves because, oh, well, again, maybe subconsciously, other people must know what they're doing. Must be more secure than me. And this is what comparison is rooted out of, which as I read this, I was like, wow, this makes so much sense. And I've never really contemplated the nature of comparison deeply. So this person has no real sense of themselves, which is why they keep externally looking for people to compare themselves to. Oh, she's wearing that, so maybe, gosh, maybe I should wear that. I'm like, this color's out of season. Or, they look around and they start to try to find a sense of themselves in comparing themselves to others. Meaning, if this person was, for whatever reason, completely isolated, they'd probably lose it. And once they start to fix an opinion, so me at the time, for instance, it must be the right way to be this thin, dress like this, wear all black, walk a certain way, have a certain false confidence. All of this is how it must be. And I fix that opinion. And once you fix an opinion, it starts to create a groove in the mind, an easily recognizable pattern. that, again, is even easier unconsciously acted out. And he says here that these people go on accumulating evidence throughout their life that supports the core belief that their life is of little value. Oh, which is so sad. But it's true. Again, I speak from experience. I was going around accumulating evidence as to why it is that being this size, dressing this way, having this personality, whatever, is the way it's supposed to be. Because just look at my environment. It's validating that. So again, the main issue here is this person constantly refers to their environment to say what's right instead of referring to what's inside of their heart to say what's right. So cheesy, but so true. And then the reactive nature of opinionated. So yes, the reactive nature of this 17th shadow of opinion is opinionated. So this is kind of classically what you think of maybe when you even hear the 17th shadow of opinion come up. Opinion can be, and he's talking about negative opinion, right? So opinion can be understood as anything that requires defense to uphold. Returning to that truth bomb I dropped earlier, the truth needs no defense. So negative opinion, which he just is calling opinion here, is something that requires defense to uphold. Without defense, without someone fighting for it, arguing over it, battling over it, it's going to, of itself, fall away and reveal the truth, right? So there needs to be certain illusions that uphold this framework, and if these illusions, for whatever reason, are to fall away, then so will this great opinion that's been held as truth. He notes how this is obviously in our political systems, right? Dogma is seen all across the world, in all countries. People using logic as a means to enforce their opinions and views on the world. I'm right, you're wrong. And here's why. Blah, 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 blah. And this person, actually, I'll add, sometimes has a very good argument as to why they are right and why you are wrong. Why their country is right and why your country is wrong. And this is the danger, right? Because logic can be extremely convincing. But once again, if you're only operating from logic and you're not holistically using both hemispheres of the brain, you're allowing the masculine to trump the feminine, then you're not actually getting presented the whole enchilada. This is not a holistic viewpoint. This is just logic with no basis. So a lot of opinion-based things, I don't know what other word to use. A lot of opinion-based things in the world are things like science, hierarchies, caste systems, what else does he say? Systems. It is extremely rare to find a human being who's truly free from opinion. And if you do find someone that does not have any negative opinion, this means they're free of their own fear, right? They must have looked into their fears and embraced their rage and moved into the magical place that sees both sides of life. So first and last contemplation of this video, who do you know in your life that is like what he just said? Sees both sides of life, can hold a point of view while also genuinely seeing another person's point of view. Not this like, oh yeah, I see what you're saying, but da-da-da, and then keeps talking about why they're right. Who do you know that's really good at patiently waiting, observing, ingesting, digesting another person's point of view, sitting with that, and then this person maybe oftentimes even gives up their own initial point of view or choice or opinion in order to align with one that did not root from them. Who do you know like that? Because this person is embodying the gift of far-sightedness, which is what we're going to talk about in the next video. So it'd be a nice little bridge contemplation for that. I will see you guys next time. Hey guys, thanks again for tuning in with me for this Gene Keys episode. I also just wanted to come on here and start promoting my one-to-one coaching that I offer to women and girls ages 16 to 35. If you followed me on Instagram for a while, you might be a little bit familiar with my story. I was a model in New York City for 5 years, and in that time frame, I did quite some damage. I developed a really severe eating disorder, body dysmorphia, chronic anxiety. Oh my gosh, I couldn't even go out to dinner without thinking about how much calories, how much I'd have to overwork out in order to compensate for what I was eating. All of those issues led to quite a depression and turned into PCOS, and I also lost my menstrual cycle for over 5 years. All of this amalgamation of issues led me to soon realize that something needed to change. I went through much work. Many people helped me to get to where I am now. And I'm so thrilled to say I'm living such a more abundant life, and I don't feel zapped and drained and fear of judgment anymore like I used to. I would love to offer what I've learned through my own embodied experience, the meditative techniques that have gravitated toward me, and the own verified games that I've made up and curated to help you walk home to more of you and who you really are, so that all of these things can stop draining your energy. You know, all the constant comparison to others and to your people on Instagram, all the over-analysis about working out and what you're eating or what you look like. All of these things are not what life's about, as cheesy as it sounds. And I would love to help you come into more unity with you if you struggle with any of these things and you're a woman or girl between the ages of 16 and 35. So feel free to reach out to me if one-on-one coaching sounds resonant. You can feel free to DM me through Instagram or contact me via email, both of which will be left below in the description box. So much love and aloha to you guys, and I'll see you all in the next video.